With us today is Pat Buchanan. He served 3 Republican presidents. He covered the nation's politics as a reporter and a commentator for a long time. Good morning, Mr. Buchanan. How are you this morning?
Doing fine, John. Lovely morning.
Have you been in Washington forever? Have you ever seen it such a mess?
You know, I did see it in such a mess when I was with Richard Nixon. He ran for president in 1968. When you had the assassinations of Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, and the Democratic Convention blew up in Grant Park with the police attacking the demonstrators. And frankly, we had riots in 100 American cities. That was a far more serious and more divisive time, John, even than this. But I have never seen the atmosphere of politics more hateful and hostile than it is right now.
It seems like President Trump went to Helsinki to meet with President Putin, which I supported 110%. I mean, it's good that leaders of major powers meet. And you got both sides mad at him.
Well, sure, but you're exactly right. First, it's what Donald Trump promised he would do. He would try to get along with Vladimir Putin and Russia rather than confront them. I mean, that is what Ronald Reagan did when I worked for him. It's what Richard Nixon did. He went to Moscow and to Beijing both. It's what all presidents have done, is sit down with the folks with whom they got deep disagreements, especially a great power like Russia, or nuclear power at least, which has all these nuclear weapons. So I think he did the right thing in what he's trying to do. And maybe he didn't handle the question well about the hacking by Russia into American politics. But for heaven's sakes, people are yelling treason and fascist, and Trump is in his pocket. He's being blackmailed. He's been owned by Putin. So I think the reaction here is horrific, and it really is Helsinki hysteria.
That's a good expression. I like that expression. I will credit that to you.
Okay.
Did it happen with Reagan in Iceland?
No, I was with Reagan in Reykjavik and Geneva when he went there. And in Iceland, what Reagan did at the end of that meeting on that Sunday night, he had a loose deal with Gorbachev to get rid of all these nuclear weapons. It was very dramatic and very bold and very risky. But what Gorbachev did at the end of the meeting said, oh, by the way, you've got to give up SDI, your missile defense. And Reagan just about exploded. I saw him walk out of that room, John, and his face was a mask of rage. And I was there at the embassy when he drove over to the embassy, and he was really enraged there. And it was late at night, about 10, I think, and we went out to Keflavik. That's the town, the air base out there. And all these airmen and women were there, and he got up and started to speak, and the rage and anger passed. They cheered him, and he was Ronald Reagan again. And on the way home from Iceland, I was having a drink in the back of Air Force One, and Ronald Reagan came out, and he was in good spirits. I mean, he'd get angry, but it would pass over like a storm.
Is it the great war machine of Washington? God forbid that we have peace. I mean, Eisenhower said it. He said, beware of the great military-industrial complex.
Exactly. And there is no question about it, John. There's not only a military-industrial complex. There are people in this city, in think tanks especially, and on magazines and writing, who cannot give up the idea that we are in a Cold War with Russia. I mean, if peace breaks out, a lot of them become irrelevant. These were the folks that really, goaded George W. Bush into invading Iraq, which had no weapons of mass destruction. They pushed every single war in the Middle East. They wanted and have gotten hostile relations with Russia. And what's happened when the country rose up and rejected their agenda and elected Donald Trump, they have been stunned by it, and they cannot get over it, and they cannot believe he is actually trying to disengage from wars in the Middle East and establish a friendlier relations with Russia, even though we've got disagreements on issues and disagreement on interests. I mean, if peace breaks out, some of these folks are going to have to find a new way to make a living.
Pat, I think we're more right than wrong on this. I'm really, really concerned. They don't want any peace. I mean, I was with the Patriarch and the Pope in Jerusalem when the Pope invited all sides, the Palestinians, the Israelis, the Orthodox, and the Catholics, to go to the Vatican about 3.5 years ago. And the people behind the scenes wanted no peace.
Mm-hmm. Look, John, take a look. I mean, let's ask ourselves. Let's go back. We did the right thing in going into Afghanistan and getting rid of bin Laden and his crowd and running them out. But then we stayed on for 18 years to try to create a democracy in a part of the world that has never known it. We invaded Iraq over weapons it did not even have. We helped ignite the civil war in Syria. We intervened with the Saudis in Yemen. We overthrew Gaddafi, a dreadful figure, in Libya. But people are dying in the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands. They've been uprooted from their homes. What good has it all accomplished? And this is what Donald Trump was saying. He was saying, look, I think the Iraq war was a horrendous mistake. It's one of the greatest blunders in American diplomatic and political history. And this is why Trump is president. The American people wanted an end to all this, and now the people who engineered these wars are the ones who are demanding that he be indicted for treason.
It is really, really a horrible... What else? Let's change the subjects. What else would you like to talk to the American people about this morning?
Well, I think what I'd say to the American people is sort of what we've been talking about. Look, you and I grew up, and during a Cold War when we had an adversary, it was motivated by Marxist-Leninist ideology that hated everything we believed in a democratic Christian West, and the Soviet Empire girded the entire globe. But, look at it. The Soviet Empire is gone, worldwide empire. The Soviet Union is gone. Eastern European is free and largely democratic. Those people are deciding their own destiny. Marxist-Leninism has been overthrown in Russia. And yes, we've got a strong leader, an authoritarian leader, a new, if you will, czar. But good heavens, the situation is so much better than it was, that why don't we try to preserve what we've got rather than return to a Cold War, which is not justified by the situation that exists today. And so I would ask the American people seem to be at least giving the president the benefit of the doubt, at least half of them are, when he's trying to change the direction of the country away from war and towards some kind of relationship, peaceful relationship with Russia. And good for him.
I agree 110%. Let's move over to Asia. I thought he did a great job meeting with North Korea, and that at least we're looking towards going in the right direction.
I think that's right. I mean, Kim Jong-un he's a dreadful human being, but I was with Richard Nixon, and we met far more dreadful human beings than he when we were in China. But that's right. And again, Trump is going to try to see if he can move North Korea away from implacable hostility to acceptance of some kind of engagement with its adversaries. And I think it's worth a try. Now, is it certain to succeed? I don't know. But certainly we are better off in 2018, where Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are talking in Singapore, than we were in 2017 when there was talk of who's got the larger missiles and who's got the larger atom bombs. So I think, again, I'm a bit of a skeptic on how this is going to come out, but I credit Trump for trying.
Well, I think I have the answer, Pat. I want to know what you think about it. What Kim Jong-un is worried about is the fact that we disarmed Gaddafi, we disarmed Saddam, and then later on, a different president, they wipe him out.
Exactly. He's looked at that. Well, this is why I don't think he's ever going to give up his ace in the hole in the poker game. That's what he's got, and that's a nuclear weapon.
Well, let's make news now. How about a three-way deal where Kim Jong-un turns over his nuclear weapons to China to
I think he, John, I don't think he's going to do it. Would you trust the Chinese?
Well, the Chinese said, trust me.
As Reagan said, trust but verify, John.
Well, I came one step forward. Beyond that, let's verify and then we trust.
Okay, but I mean, I agree with you, and I do agree that, look, if you could get, frankly, if you could get Kim Jong-un to give up his nuclear weapons program, which he does have, the way we did get Iran to give it up, frankly, their program, and they have inspectors in there, and they've given up their highly enriched uranium or medium highly enriched uranium. I think I would settle for a deal like that, and but I generally believe that Kim Jong-un he's a dedicated, he's a nationalist, he's a communist, he's anti-West. I think ultimately he sees himself as ruling both Koreas, but I do not believe he wants war with the United States because he could have that in the afternoon, and he hasn't tried to get it in 5 years.
Well, I think when he went to China and China said to him, how old are you? He said, 34. He says, you want to live to be 35, make peace.
Well, if the Chinese said that, we could do business with the Chinese.
Absolutely. Pat Buchanan, thank you so much for talking to the American people on a Sunday morning. I enjoyed our talk, and hopefully we have many more.
A pleasure, John. You take it easy.
Thank you.